Okay, you guys, another Monday, another video, and I am very excited to be sitting down and talking to you guys about my Procreate brushes. I've gotten a couple comments about what brushes I use, and I thought, I would go ahead and not only break down what brush packs I've purchased, but further than that, what brushes within those packs I actually use, because there are quite a lot of brushes oftentimes with those packs, and unless you're buying like a really specific brush from a specific content creator or anything like that, if you buy from like Max Packs, which is where I have purchased all of my brushes, if you purchase from them, their packs come with, oh my god, like so many brushes, probably like 50 to 100 brushes per pack. Like it's insane, maybe even more. I don't know, I'm not very good at visualizing numbers. But all of that being said, if sitting down hearing me chat about my brushes intrigues you, and watching me paint this painting of a duck with its head underwater, kind of, but then it like peeks out, whatever, you'll see. If that sounds like something you would enjoy, I'm Rory Fluent. Feel free to call me Rory. If you're new around here, hi, hello, how are you? Feel free to let me know in the comments down below. I like to create dope art content and hopefully curate a chill atmosphere. And if you're not new around here, what is up, my dudes? Let's get into this video. So I did a little sketching off camera because I was just kind of like really excited. My partner and I went on a walk and we saw these ducks with their heads completely submerged underwater, and they were just like I guess like fishing or something. I think that's how they like catch fish, or maybe they were eating like some of the like algae and like oh my god, like the flora, I guess, in the pond, and I'm honestly not sure what they were doing. And I guess it wasn't a pond, it was more like a creek, I guess, or a creek. But all of that being said, I was really inspired by these ducks. I thought it was hilarious. I couldn't get over the fact that they were literally completely upside down and their little feet were kicking, and I just thought it was adorable, and I wanted to use that as inspiration to create a painting. And whether I'm doing a first light sketch or refining the sketch, I'm always using the same brush, which is the colored pencil. It's specifically called Colored Pencil Max U Waxy. I'll probably put a little image of it up here. It specifically came in the Watercolor Max Pack, which, again, if you haven't watched my videos before, I've purchased all my brushes from Max Packs. I adore them. One of the things that I do want to do is take a few of the creators that I watch here on YouTube and purchase the brushes that they've made and try them out, because I'm always down to experiment a little bit more, and they're always so cheap and so very much worth the price that it's like kind of intriguing to sit down and want to experiment more with more brushes and see what more textures and just, I guess, interesting additions to my style new brushes can make here in Procreate. Anytime you see me sketching, it is 100% the brush that I'm using, because I just find it so easy. I love how it's just like exactly like a colored pencil. I feel like I really like the way that the lines turn out. It glides on my iPad, which I guess might be more of like my Apple Pencil, but I don't know. I really like the feel of it, even if it's just kind of like in my head, the feel of it. I quite like it, and I'm just so used to sketching with sort of like a grainy pencil that it was a really easy transition for me, and made the process of kind of starting to do digital art much easier once I got it, because I really didn't like any of the sketching pencils that Procreate actually came with. You're going to see now that I'm starting to lay down like flat colors, and when I am kind of just doing this color sampling, figuring out my color palette and the color layout, I really like to use this specific brush called Max U Pastel Cloudy Blend, which is like, what a fucking name. I'm not really sure why it's called that, but I love that it's like semi-transparent. You can build up the color. I love the fact that it's very flowy and loose. It's not a very tight line that you get when you're drawing with it. I love how it like builds on top of itself, and it's sort of like a blending brush, so it really just kind of like creates a really nice seamless transition between colors, which makes it fantastic for little like color thumbnails, and really quickly trying to just add flushes of color to the piece to figure out where I want the colors to go. And any of the pastel brushes are specifically going to be from the Retro Max Pack that I own. But when I am laying down my colors and just kind of doing color sampling, that's normally the brush that I'm using. And if I want something more opaque, and as we start to get into actually like finalizing the colors and creating the physical painting, I will start to use and predominantly use the Max U Pastel Soft Brush, which quite literally is my saving grace. I adore this brush. I love that it's buildable. It literally acts just like a fucking pastel. It's insane. I literally adore it. Because I loved this brush so much, I quite literally went out and purchased physical like soft pastels to use within my actual art, like traditional art, I guess I should say. Not actual, it's all actual art. But to use literally in my traditional media, because I just loved that brush so fucking much that I was like, okay, maybe soft pastels are for me. I think what I'll try and do is at some point in the video, I will try and have sort of like a little swatching, just kind of added video, or added clip rather, where I just kind of swatch the brushes so you guys can see like individually what each one looks like and kind of tell what kind of texture it creates on the piece, and hopefully that'll better help you decide if it's like a brush you want or something that you like the look of. Again, these Max packs come with, oh my god, so many brushes. So just because these are the ones that I use, and it's kind of insane to me because when I start like scrolling and looking at all the brushes I have, I'm like, oh my god, why don't I use all of these brushes? But it's because I've found a handful that I really like, and I haven't really pushed myself to further experiment, but I think that I definitely will after this video. Like, just talking about all these brushes is getting me excited to try new ones, so that's kind of cool. As we continue into the video and I start finalizing the colors and actively beginning to refine the piece, you'll see that I am using, again, that soft pastel brush that I absolutely adore. And it's really what I go in and I lay down all my flat colors. I kind of start to build on top of the cloudy brush because I will use that in my final pieces for, like, again, the blendability, the buildability. Oh my god, wait, is that a word? The, like, buildableness. I love the fact that you can layer the cloudy brush, and another thing that I kind of love about most of the pastel brushes in general is just the fact that you can like overlay them on top of each other and the textures really start to play together, and I just get a lot of enjoyment out of that. There's something so satisfying about being able to block out these colors so smoothly and easily with the soft pastel brushes, and specifically that soft pastel brush, not the cloudy blending brush. So yeah, as we continue through the video, you're just seeing me start to actually work on the colors that I chose to use and start completing the piece bit by bit with these brushes. I was having a lot of fun with this piece, being particularly painterly and really just kind of enjoying putting those swaths of color down. Like I said, I got the inspiration from this because I thought it was really funny that these ducks were like fishing or like eating under the water and their feet were just kicking in the air, and I just kind of wanted to add my own flair to that idea. And originally I was going to kind of have it be like this, how would you put it, like split levels, so like it was kind of looking dead on at a duck with its head under the water, and then you would be able to kind of see the head under the water. And I still might create a piece based off of that just because, I don't know, I have it in my head. But once I started kind of working on this piece and working on the sketching process, I realized that I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more dynamic than that. I wanted there to be more like layers going on in the foreground and the background and more depth. And so the idea kind of evolved into more of this like peeking in on a duck that is currently trying to catch some fish and is having a hard time doing it with its like detached head poking up out of the water and the fish kind of floating above the water. I was also trying really hard to make a point of using colors that I don't often use, or like at least like some of them, because I feel like I've been stuck in like a color rut where I'm gravitating towards the same colors. And even now I'm realizing that I chose to use that like muddy purpley brown color that I've just had in like every piece I've made for the last little while. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to go for like oranges because I never ever use oranges. I really don't like them. I'd say like the only orange I ever really like is like oh my god, raw sienna, if you consider burnt sienna an orange, those kinds of colors. But when it comes to orange, it's just not really my thing. So I wanted to experiment a little bit, make these little fish orange, and use a different kind of blue. I've been gravitating towards these really vibrant teals. I wanted to go for some really muted, like neutral blue tones. Or I suppose blue hues, that would be. But I was also focusing on contrast and, all those lovely, I guess, different theories and concepts that we use to kind of make the piece the best that it could be. And particularly in the background, you can see I'm kind of having a lot of fun just drawing these sort of like really impressionistic, really loose lines and kind of just like giving the hint of something there instead of actually creating a bunch of detail. It's like alluding towards the detail, I guess. And just to reiterate, during this entire time, I am kind of just switching between the cloudy pastel brush and the soft pastel. And I'm just kind of going back and forth depending on what I want. If I want something softer, I'll use the cloudy one. If I want a harsher line or a more textured line, I tend to gravitate more towards the soft pastel brush. I just feel like these two brushes give me a lot of control, they give the piece a lot of texture and interest, and overall they create the look and feel that I really want out of my pieces. As we move on to coloring the water though, I start off with my cloudy blending brush and really using a gentle hand to sort of slowly build up that color and give that sort of like depth and transparency to the water that I was really trying to focus on throughout the piece. Now you'll notice that my focus on the water only spans like a second because I very quickly get distracted by the subject of the piece, the duck, and I start to kind of fiddle around with it and sort of try to start adding more detail work to like the ooze that is coming out of the ducks or whatever. And I do believe by the end of this video I choose to remove the ooze. I felt like I couldn't really find a color that was working for it. I really wasn't sure or confident in what it was adding to the piece, and I don't know, I felt like it wasn't giving what I wanted it to and wasn't actually adding anything color-wise, contrast-wise, or interest-wise that I felt like made it worth keeping around. And since I started to focus on that and coloring the ooze a little bit, I started to focus on the duck and the duck body, and I was like, oh, getting very, very distracted by the duck and totally neglecting and forgetting that I had started painting the water. And I know it's kind of boring to hear me just reiterate over and over again, but I really do just use those two soft pastel brushes for like the majority or the bulk of my work in my day-to-day pieces. I just find that they give what I need them to and give my pieces the feel and look that I am looking for when I'm going into Procreate. But with that being said, once I start returning to the water, you will see that I actually begin to use a few of the watercolor brushes that I got from the Watercolor Max pack. Predominantly, I end up bouncing between the Max U Watercolor Flood Clean brush and the Max U Watercolor Flood Grainy brush, which I will probably just call Flood Grainy and Flood Clean for, I guess, like clarity's sake or whatever, but I end up using those when it comes to the water because I adore the way the watercolor brushes build when it comes to the intensity of the color. So what I mean by that is with the pastel, if I choose a soft neutral blue, the pastel is not really going to get any darker than that soft neutral blue. But with the watercolor brushes, I've found that I can build the intensity of the hue and it starts to almost become a deeper, more intense version of the same color with the watercolor brushes. So it's interesting because if I want my color to look exactly the way that I have it color picked, I will use my soft pastels. But if I want the color to sort of, I don't know, I suppose like grow and evolve as I use it and play with it on the page, then I will choose the watercolor brushes because they just, and you'll see here, the way that they build on top of each other is really interesting. And normally when I'm using those watercolor brushes, I will also end up using a gouache brush from the Retro Max pack, which is the Max U Smudge Gouache Natural Brush. And you'll start to see me use that as just like a little bit of a texture brush more than anything else. I use like the soft pastel brushes to lay down my colors, get those details in, add that texture. I just generally have a fun time using them. I use the watercolor brushes to add more intensity to my color and add more texture and depth to the piece, because I feel like even though the pastel brushes are very textured, if you have the same texture all over the piece, then that texture doesn't like stand out the way that you want it to. It doesn't really look like texture anymore, if that makes any sense. So throwing in these new brushes like watercolor brushes and gouache brushes on top of the soft pastel brushes really kind of helps to emphasize what each brush is bringing to the table and the different textures that I want going on in my piece. Right here actually is when I start to use those watercolor brushes, and I'm really just kind of like fiddling around, really lightly tapping the brush to the page because I don't want that color to build up too quickly. I've found that that's one thing that I don't love about the watercolors, or particularly those brushes, is that I feel that the color does get too dark too fast, in my opinion. And I don't think that's really the case with normal watercolors or traditional watercolor. Now, what you're looking at right here is actually one of my favorite brushes, and if you want to talk about texture, you want to get into like what I'm really using to add even more texture to my pieces, it's going to be this Max U Smudge Grungy Sketch Brush. What this really strange brush does, in my opinion, is that it kind of like mimics the texture of like a sponge being drug across a page, or I don't know, it gives like this really interesting sporadic sort of like speckled texture across whatever it is that I am painting, and I really enjoy it, especially because I can control the size, so I can add just like a little bit of that speckled texture or a little bit more or less, and I can add it to a really specific part of the painting, or I can do it across the entire thing. And the fact that you can control the size of the textures is just so interesting to me, and it helps like so much in terms of not allowing your pieces to get too muddled with all of this texture running rampant. I guess I could throw in there that also for other texture brushes, I really like the Max U Blocky Bold and the Max U Smudge Messy Scrub, which I'll probably throw up here as well, just so you guys can see what those look like. One of the things that just really stands out to me, especially when it comes to working in Procreate, is just the idea of like layering. I feel like I didn't really understand layering until I started working in digital art, and it all kind of just clicked one day, and I was like, holy shit, like the fact that I can take these different brushes and I can layer them on top of each other to create this depth, it never really clicked with me in traditional media, but once I had the ability to rearrange my layers and utilize the layer panel the way that I do, I just started to fall in love with the idea of building on top of each other. And so all of the brushes that I use are brushes where I really, really enjoy the buildability. That's not a word. I think I already said that in this video, but I really like the fact that they can be layered on top of each other in a way that just enhances each individual texture and color and sort of like brush that I'm using to create my pieces, and I just like thoroughly enjoy that. Arguably, the most important brush that I use is my liner, which I just recently found. It is the only brush I'm recommending that actually is a part of the Procreate pack, that like it just comes with the actual app, and so it's called the Gazinski Ink Brush, and I fucking love this thing, okay? I use Tombow brush pens in my traditional media, and I love that they are both flexible but stiff at the same time. Like, they have give, but they are not like a traditional brush pen in the sense that they like brush pens are generally very soft and very difficult to control, and I find that the Tombow brush pens are very, very easy to manipulate and to kind of create the lines that you want to with. And I love that. And I feel like the Gazinski ink brush is literally identical. I adore this brush. It's not like full of a bunch of weird texture. Like, I've got enough texture going on in my pieces. I bet you guys could like count the amount of times I say texture in this video. But all of that being said, I have enough texture going on in my pieces. I don't need my line work to have texture as well. And most of the different like inking pens that not only does Procreate come with, but these different Max packs come with, are just way too textured or lack the control that I want in an inking liner. And so when I just kind of like stumbled upon this one while I was dicking around one day and on my iPad, I was like, holy shit, where has this been? How has it been on my iPad the entire time? And I've had no idea that it was here. I love this inking pen. You can kind of see obviously on the screen like the way that it just feels like it glides. I have a lot of control, and I love that the size does be like it's manipulated by the amount of pressure that I'm using on the pen. What's even more interesting to me is literally, and I don't know how like the like creating liners and stuff like works, but like the fact that I can like alter where my pen is sitting in my hand, and the brush will literally like, it's almost like the tip is bending with the way that I'm turning my pen, is actually insane to me. Like the fact that I don't know how, I'm stumbling over myself because I don't know how the iPad like tracks that I've picked up my pen, turned my pen, and now when I'm placing it down, if this was a traditional pen, it would be facing a different like direction, and that would dictate how the ink flowed out of the pen. I think that's fucking insane. And so the fact that this pen is just so like real feeling, so tangible feeling to me, it brings me a lot of joy, and it also allows me to have the kind of line work that I've been searching for a really long time in my Procreate work or my digital work. And so it's just been really, really satisfying to be able to have, well, I guess the best word for it would be to be able to have the satisfaction of finishing a piece with this liner that is so similar to what I use in traditional media. With these final touches and the last bit of inking, I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is the end of the video. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed hearing me kind of ramble a bit about my brushes. I hope that it was kind of helpful to hear someone like break down as they work on a piece exactly what brushes they're using and why they're choosing to use them. I mean, even myself, like I said earlier in the video, it's kind of making me want to branch out. I'm like, there's no way that there's only 9 of these brushes that I have that I use consistently, but there really is. And I want to kind of branch out and use more of the brushes that these packs have, because they have so damn many. Like it's unfathomable how many brushes they have, and I kind of want to experiment a bit more and make sure that I'm not missing out or neglecting a brush that would otherwise be like one of my favorites. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, thank you so much for sticking around. Feel free to do the YouTubey things like comment and subscribe. If you don't know what to comment, go ahead and comment algorithm because it helps. And hopefully I'll get to talk to you in the next one. Bye!